top story this morning is that the Chancellor is to use Wednesday's budget to give away more than £15 billion in benefits. This from a government, of course, that says the country's broke.
Well, Rachel Reeves will argue she must take difficult decisions to protect the lowest earners. But who's going to bear the brunt? It would be the middle-income earners who would be saddled with tax hikes in order to fund policies like lifting the two-child benefit cap.
Former political advisor Mr. Oscar Reddrop, he's been having his say on this morning. You've been having your say about his say, and he's just going to reinforce what he was saying earlier about this. Oscar.
Well, I have to say, watching your interview, the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, was fascinating in the sense that it was completely devoid of any detail or any explanation as to what we've seen the budget briefing over the weekend, because we do feel like it's really starting to take form now. And the joke of that
But I don't know why any of us bother asking, because no politician is going to give any detail ahead of the budget, including the Prime Minister. So why do we bother asking?
But this is exactly the point. For him to say, I can't answer any questions you're going to give to me about the budget, because it's all just speculation. It's the government that are creating the speculation. They're the guys briefing and leaking it. So it's kind of outrageous, actually. This is all the stuff we're seeing in terms of the tax, the potential thresholds, the two-child benefit cap. Manchin, hate that phrase.
But the idea being that we won't be all shock horror when it is announced.
Well, look, I think we'd be giving them, because, a lot of politicos, they go, oh, they're actually being really smart because they're kind of testing policy in terms, and then looking at the reaction, and that is giving them way too much credit. They simply haven't got an idea and have been chopping and changing continuously for weeks now due to pressure.
And that in turn leads to so much anxiety for businesses and normal people up and down the country.
Exactly.
The chaos surrounding
words and speculation matter. When you say, oh, we're going to tax, the wealthiest, they leave. Even if you come round and you tend to say you won't in the end,
I know people say, oh, well, this is only speculation, people are guessing. Of course they're not leaving. If I watched another political programme, we get some experts saying that. I tell you, I was at an event on Friday night full of billionaires, millionaires, and whatever, it was a charity thing. They're leaving. Yeah. They're leaving. They told me they were leaving if they haven't already left.
Yeah, exactly. And I have to say, in terms of... I get the framing, because it is going to be that kind of almost technocratic left way of kind of punishing people, which isn't we tax the... people like the Green Party in Corbyn, they want to go for the 0.1%, whereas this is kind of a lot more mealy-mouthed. It's a little bit less kind of controversial and brash in a way, but it targets the middle in some senses, a way that the proper left would leave alone. But it isn't just the middle. This is people who are scraping through and battling every morning. They will be affected.
This government talks about wealth creation. They all talk about wealth creation. None of them know how to create wealth. None of them know. And they simply taxes. Why can't they create wealth? What is there... I don't really understand it. I mean, is it I don't know. Are they subjects that when we create wealth, are they just too taboo? I mean, whether it's fracking or something like that?
It requires, in order to... I'm not an economist, but when I was at Number 10, I worked with some very, very smart people. And again, those that worked at Number 11. If you want to engender growth, productivity is key to that. And at the moment, we are de-incentivising risk-taking and productivity, and actually, ultimately, people who want to work hard and take those risks. And we're incentivising people to do less.
I would put tax on texts. When you think everybody has a mobile phone, everybody uses a mobile phone, and if you use it a certain degree and there's a penny on each text that you send...
Stop texting, more working, more...
That would add up very quickly.
That definitely would for me. Definitely would for me.
I send a text for each sentence.
That would be a problem. Me too, pretty much. But look, just lastly on it, because I think there'll be people who'll be really nervously watching Wednesday. There is a lot of nervousness. Nervously watching Wednesday. The Labour government, in terms of holding them to account, the threshold freeze is will raise it ultimately is a raise on income tax.
Because it drags more people in.
This isn't just me, this isn't just some former Tory advisor, Tory boy, in the Times today, there's a proper, real in-depth article. Across the next decade, if the budget plans as we think they're going to be, 10 million more people will be in a higher tax bracket. So do not be fooled, guys. This would be a break on that manifesto pledge that the Labour government...
Oscar, thank you very much indeed.
Oscar.
Oscar's had his say, now you can have yours.
Yep, gbnews.com.
Using the internet without a VPN, a virtual private network, is a bit like taking to the road without car insurance. All it takes is one unlucky moment to cost you a lot of cash. This video's sponsor is Private Internet Access. They are the VPN to help keep you safe. Click the link in the description below to find out why over 30 million people have downloaded PIA to protect themselves online. A virtual private network is an app that hides your IP address and helps keep your data private. When you're browsing the internet at home, you give up a large amount of data to businesses, to shops, and indeed to social media giants too. Hackers have the ability to steal your personal data with ease, including sensitive information such as passwords, keystrokes, and even your personal photos. Private Internet Access helps protect your personal data by encrypting your internet connection to keep your data out of the hands of cyber criminals. And it's not just hackers either to be concerned about. Information can be censored too. When Canada passed their C18 bill, social media giants decided to ban news content on their platforms. But PIA can protect your ability to consume the news and content you love. Private Internet Access is available for Windows users, Mac OS, Android, Linux, iOS, and you can use one PIA subscription to protect an unlimited amount of devices. And we've got a huge GB News discount for you too. Click the link in this video's description and you'll get a massive 83% off PIA. That's under £2 a month, the price of a coffee, and you'll get an extra 4 months completely free on top. Also, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee too. Visit piavpn.com/GBnews to start protecting yourself digitally today.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us in the rain. Look, we need to talk about the budget just Wednesday, so not very long to go now. We're talking about a rise in benefits, so £15 billion giveaway to the benefits bill at the same time as raising taxes. How's this going to go down with the British people? We're told we've got no money, but we're giving away £15 billion in benefits.
Well, you're talking entirely based on speculation that's in tabloid newspapers today, and each day the speculation changes. Now, I understand that there's been a lot of speculation in the lead up to this budget, but there's only 2 days to go. The facts will come out on Wednesday. Let's wait for those facts to emerge. But what we do know is that this will be a budget where we will get a grip on the cost of living challenges, because that is what affecting people up and down the country. We'll protect the NHS, and we will make sure that we start to tackle the long-term debt challenges that we inherited from the previous government. We will also lay the foundations for growth. The only way that our country can move forward, the only way we get real fairness for working people and pensioners right across the country, is to get growth into our economy, and that is what I, as Business Secretary, am doubling down on.
And you're going to be announcing a way of getting growth today, Peter. I think this is a really good idea. You're going to cut electricity bills for a lot of businesses. Tell us about that.
Thanks, Eamon. Yeah, that's completely right. We're announcing a consultation to start the BIC scheme. That's the British Industrial Competitiveness Scheme. That will reduce the electricity charges by a staggering 25% for 7,000 industrial businesses up and down the country. These are manufacturing companies. We know that what's holding back growth for these companies is the cost of electricity. Again, we inherited a situation where the electricity costs in our country for consumers and businesses is the highest in the whole of Europe. In some cases, it's double the cost of other countries in Europe and America. We need to make sure we can get a grip on that. So we've found a way of doing that for 7,000 businesses on top of the supercharger that we've already announced a couple of months ago, where we increased the amount available to high energy intensive industries back then.
This benefiting the businesses, what would this free up money for?
Well, the money will be used for those 7,000 businesses to cut their electricity costs. That means that they can then focus on growing the business. They can focus on investing in new business, new markets. They can make more efficient and effective products and services so that they can become much more competitive in the global market as well as in the domestic market, make sure that they're selling products and services at a much more effective cost to consumers. This is the sort of thing that gets a grip on inflation. It's the sort of thing that contributes towards growth. It's one of the key things that we can do as a government to make sure that industry in Britain is supported.
Tories are speaking later against the Labour's employment rights bill. They say that it's a de facto ban on seasonal and flexible work. She says that employers will not be taking on people for 3 or 4 weeks over Christmas because it will simply be too costly, that they will have rights from day one. Does this mean that this Labour government has effectively killed off Christmas working?
No, what Kemi Badenoch is doing is what she always does, and that she's just trying to scare people. The fact is that when the legislation passes, because the Conservatives are blocking it in the House of Lords, that we will then move to a period of intense consultation with business over those exact issues. We'll have 26 separate consultations, so we get these things right. The Labour manifesto is very, very clear. This is a piece of legislation that does not pit businesses against the people who work in businesses. This is a piece of legislation where we will strive so that it is pro-business and it is pro the people who work in these businesses. Employment legislation has not been updated for almost a generation, and in that time there have been things emerging in the modern economy which simply weren't there before, and we need to make sure that the legislation is updated. As I said, this is a legislation, and I am, as Business Secretary, which is determined to ensure that this leads to a more harmonious relationship between businesses and the people who work in those businesses going forward, and that is what I am determined and reconciled to do.
Can I ask you about the ex-Prime Minister Lord Cameron, who has publicly revealed that he was diagnosed with prostate cancer last year? He is now, thankfully, cancer-free, but he has backed a national screening programme for prostate cancer in this country. It is the most common cancer for men in the UK. Do you back a national screening programme in the UK?
This is being considered by the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, at the moment. But let me just say an enormous thank you to David Cameron for speaking so publicly about this. This is a private matter for him, and it must have been difficult to talk about it. I'm incredibly relieved that he has now made a recovery, and I'm grateful for him talking about it. We know that this is a huge issue facing men up and down the country, and I know that Wes is looking at the right way forward. These are not straightforward issues. We need to make sure that we have the right interventions and the right support so that men get exactly what they need in order to get the diagnosis where it exists.
OK, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Business and Trade Secretary Peter Kyle there. Thank you very much. Sorry to keep you out in the rain.
Thanks, Eamon.
Thank you.